The bag of great value raw shrimp in your freezer door lists water as its second ingredient. What makes that legal is a soaking agent called sodium tripolyphosphate, sitting on the FDA's safe list with no legal sealing at all. Last August, the FDA told Walmart to pull 3 lots of that exact bag off shelves in 13 states. But the weird part isn't the cheap bag, it's the one promising no unwanted ingredients on the front. I'll show you 3 that are actually real, including one at Costco with a 1-word ingredient list. So today, 8 frozen shrimp brands to walk right past and 3 worth your cart. Here's what real frozen shrimp is supposed to be. Shrimp. That's the whole ingredient list. Maybe shrimp and salt if the processor cares about flavor. Turn any bag around. If you see water or you see sodium tripolyphosphate, you're holding shrimp that got soaked before it got frozen. And you can measure how hard it got soaked with no equipment at all. Read the sodium line on the nutrition panel. Untreated raw shrimp runs around 119 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams. Soak that same shrimp in a phosphate bath and it comes out at 566. That's USDA's own nutrient database, not mine. And while the sodium quadruples, the protein drops from 20 grams down to 14. The shrimp is now part water, and you can read the whole thing off the back of the bag. So why does the honest version cost more? Because water is free and shrimp isn't. A phosphate soak makes shrimp absorb roughly 7 to 10% more water, and you buy shrimp by the pound. Every pound of water they pump in is a pound of shrimp somebody didn't have to catch, freeze, and ship across an ocean. Now here's the legal part. Sodium tripolyphosphate is listed as generally recognized as safe in the Code of Federal Regulations, Title 21, Part 182. Generally recognized as safe means there's no number attached, no maximum, no cap. So a processor can soak as hard as the shrimp will absorb, declare it in 6-point type on the back, and stay completely inside the law. That means the front of the bag gets to say, wild caught, sustainably sourced, no artificial anything, while the back of the bag does the dirty work. And later I'll show you a 60-second test you can run in your own kitchen with a dry pan and nothing else that tells you instantly whether you've been buying shrimp or buying water. Number 8, great value cooked shrimp. This is the one in the red bag, sitting in your freezer door right now. 12 ounces, 31 to 40 count, with the thaw and serve badge stamped in the corner. This is the bag people grab on the way to somebody's house because it feels like a shortcut with no downside. Peeled, deveined, already cooked, tail on. If there's a bag of shrimp in your freezer you didn't plan a meal around, it's probably this one. Look at the ingredient list. Shrimp, water, sodium tripolyphosphate, salt. Read that order one more time. The phosphate outranks the salt. There's more soaking agent in that bag than there is seasoning. And water is sitting in second position, which means by weight, water is the single biggest thing in there after the shrimp itself. At Walmart right now, that 12-ounce bag is $7.86. That's $10.48 a pound. That is the part that bothers me. You're paying $10 a pound, and a measurable slice of that pound is municipal tap water with a chemical holding it in place. What you get is exactly what the phosphate was engineered to give you. Shrimp that look plump and heavy through the plastic, then turn slightly rubbery and a little watery once they hit a plate. They don't taste bad, they taste like nothing, which is worse. The sweetness that makes shrimp worth eating has been diluted because it has literally been diluted. And notice what the bag doesn't tell you. Farm raised, it says in small letters on the back. Not where. Not which country, just farm raised, which covers about a dozen nations. If you've been grabbing one of these every week for the last year, you've spent about $409 on cooked shrimp and the water it's been carrying. Bottom line, this is a shortcut product wearing a convenience costume. But the next one is sneakier because the front of that bag uses the 2 words most shoppers treat as a guarantee. Number 7, Good and Gather wild-caught large raw shrimp. 2 doors down at Target. 3140 count and the words wild caught sitting right there on the front in the biggest type on the package. And here's the assumption almost everybody makes, that wild caught means untouched. It doesn't. Wild caught is a statement about where the shrimp was before somebody picked it up out of a net. Turn the package around. Shrimp, water, salt, sodium tripolyphosphate to retain moisture. Wild shrimp, pulled out of the actual ocean, then soaked exactly like the farm stuff. The words on the front describe the shrimp's past. They say nothing whatsoever about what happened to it inside the plant. That gap between the front panel and the back panel is the entire business model of this category. 16 ounces is $10.49 at Target. Now, in fairness to them, this one got a light soak rather than a heavy one. The sodium lands at 150 milligrams per 4-ounce serving, which is close to what nature does on its own. Hold on to that number, 150, because later in this video I'm going to show you another bag, same brand, same store, same freezer case, that comes in more than 3 times higher. Same logo on the front, completely different product on the back. What you get here is honestly decent shrimp with a small tax attached. Slightly softer than it should be, a little less snap when you bite down. The kind of thing you'd never notice on its own, but you'd notice immediately side by side. And there's a second thing worth knowing about this one. The phosphate isn't only holding water in, it's also holding the shrimp's shape and color through months of frozen storage, which is why a bag that's been in a warehouse since spring still looks flawless through the plastic in August. That's the real function. It isn't there for you, it's there so the product survives the supply chain, still looking worth picking up. Buy it weekly for a year, and that's $545, with some of those dollars going toward moisture you'll pour straight down the sink. And this is where the shelf gets weird. Number 6, Aquastar breaded butterfly shrimp. The 24-ounce bag, $12.19 at Target. This is the one that shows up at casual dinners all over the country, and the front of it is all golden crunch and butterflied tails. Look at the ingredient list and count how deep you have to go before the food stops being flour. Shrimp, wheat flour, water, soybean oil, modified tapioca starch, modified cornstarch, 3 different starches stacked back to back before you even reach salt. Then further down, sodium tripolyphosphate. So the shrimp got soaked first and then it got dressed. 6 shrimp gets you 210 calories, 12 grams of fat, and 400 milligrams of sodium. 12 grams of fat in a shrimp! Shrimp is one of the leanest proteins on the planet, and this bag has made it greasy before you've even turned the oven on. It also says product of Indonesia on the back, which is going to matter a great deal by the end of this video. Now here's the thing that gets me. Aquastar publishes a phosphate-free line on their own website. Same company, same species, no phosphate bath, which tells you the soak was never necessary in the first place. It's a choice, made bag by bag, and the bag most people can actually find at Target is not the one they made the good choice on. And get this, read that phosphate-free label closely, and it still lists sodium carbonate and sodium citrate. Phosphate-free doesn't mean unsoaked, it means they swapped which chemical does the soaking, and then printed the swap on the front of the package like it was a favor to you. What you get out of the oven is the giveaway. The coating goes crisp and holds, and then you bite into something soft and stringy that pulls away from its own breading. That gap between the crust and the shrimp is steam. It's the soak escaping while the outside cooks, and it's why the coating so often slides off in one piece. Weekly for a year, that's $634 on breading, oil, 3 starches, and some shrimp. If this is already saving you from a bad shop, do me a favor and hit subscribe. We publish one of these every week. Number 5, Gorton's popcorn shrimp, the yellow box with the fisherman on it, the one that's been in American freezers since most of us were children. 14 ounces, $6.98 at H-E-B. Trusted since 1849, it says under the logo. Over 175 years of serving families, says the company. Good source of protein, says the badge in the bottom corner. That's about as much trust as a cardboard box can carry, so let's check that badge. 1 3-ounce serving, about 12 shrimp, gives you 7 grams of protein and 21 grams of carbohydrate, 3 times more carbohydrate than protein, in a shrimp product, and here's the tell that settles it. That same panel lists 3 grams of dietary fiber. Shrimp has no fiber, 0. Fiber comes from plants, so every gram of it on that panel is breading, and the box is telling on itself. They're banking on the word shrimp doing all the work, while the flour quietly does all the weight. Look at what's inside the shrimp itself, before any breading touches it. shrimp, water, salt, sodium di, tri, and polyphosphate, sodium bisulfite. 3 different phosphates and a sulfite preservative, and then it gets a flour coat and a soybean oil fry on top. Now here's the detail almost nobody notices. Down in the corner of that box, in small print, it says, "See nutrition information for sodium content." That's not a marketing line, that's a legally required disclosure. Under FDA labeling rules, once a single serving crosses 480 milligrams of sodium, the front of the package has to point you toward the panel. This one lands at 500. The box is quietly warning you, and it's only doing it because a regulation forced it to. Buy this weekly and it's $363 a year on what is functionally a breaded carbohydrate with shrimp somewhere inside it. Remember that price, because one of the real brands later costs almost the same per pound and has a one-word ingredient list. But the next brand does something worse. It prints the shortcut on the front and dresses it up as a benefit. Number 4. CPAC Classic Butterfly Shrimp, right next to it on the same shelf. 18 ounces, $9.87 at Walmart, blue box. Since 1948 printed under the logo, a 4-star responsibility seal, and over 10,000 ratings averaging 4.6 stars. People love this box. That's what makes it worth opening up. Look at the ingredient list and look hard at what's sitting in second position. Bleached wheat flour. Third position, soybean oil. So the 2 largest ingredients after the shrimp are bleached flour and refined oil, in that order. And the box is still, with a completely straight face, calling itself butterfly shrimp. Keep reading and it gets stranger. Methylcellulose, guar gum, sodium alginate, xanthan gum. That's 4 separate binding agents in one box of what's supposed to be a whole shrimp with breadcrumbs on it. Then sodium tripolyphosphate to retain moisture, and sodium bisulfite as a preservative. So the shrimp was soaked, then bound, then preserved, then breaded. And look at that 7 grams of protein circle on the front. 7 grams is roughly what 1 ounce of actual shrimp gives you. They printed the number because it reads like a benefit. Read it the other way and it's a measurement. It's telling you exactly how little shrimp is in a serving, and they volunteered it themselves in a circle on the front of the box. What you get is a coating that goes crisp, and a shrimp inside that goes soft and faintly pasty, because that's what happens when you bake water inside a crust. And I want to be fair here, because since 1948 is a real number, this company has been making shrimp for close to 80 years, and for most of that run, the box in your freezer was a much simpler thing. Nobody was putting methylcellulose in butterfly shrimp in 1948. The heritage on the front of the box is genuine. The recipe behind it isn't the one that earned it. That's the trick this category runs on. The trust was built decades ago on a product that no longer exists, and the logo carries it forward for free. Weekly for a year, $513. Once you've seen the second ingredient on that box, you cannot unsee it. And the next one is the bag I'd be most annoyed to find sitting on my own holiday table. Number 3. Good and Gather cooked shrimp with cocktail sauce. Back at Target, 16 ounces, $10.49. This is the tray that shows up at Christmas, at New Year's, at every family thing where somebody wanted to bring something nice without cooking. And it feels like the safest choice in the freezer case because it's just shrimp and sauce. 2 things. What could possibly be hiding in 2 things? Turn it around. The shrimp reads shrimp, salt, sodium tripolyphosphate. Fine, we've seen that 3 times already tonight. Now read the sauce. Water, tomato paste, sugar, horseradish. Sugar outranks horseradish. In cocktail sauce, the ingredient that's supposed to be the entire reason cocktail sauce exists is sitting behind sugar by weight. Then it keeps going. Modified tapioca starch, xanthan gum, carrageenan, 3 separate thickeners in a sauce that should be tomato, horseradish, and a squeeze of lemon. Now here's the number that stopped me cold. 1 5-ounce serving of this tray carries 920 milligrams of sodium. That's 40% of an entire day in 1 small plate of shrimp cocktail. There are about 3 servings in that container, so somebody standing next to the tray at a party, picking at it for an hour, is eating most of a day's sodium and genuinely believing they made the smart choice at the buffet. And the sugar isn't hiding either. The panel lists 6 grams of added sugar per serving, in a product most people would swear has no sugar in it whatsoever. Here's what the sugar and the starches are actually doing. Real cocktail sauce is thin and sharp, and it slides off a cold shrimp. Thicken it with tapioca starch and xanthan gum and carrageenan, and it clings to the shrimp instead. That's not a flavor decision, it's a coverage decision. A sauce that clings makes a small, watery, soaked shrimp taste like more than it is, and the sugar rounds off whatever's left underneath. 2 of these a month for a year is $252 on soaked shrimp and an engineered substitute for cocktail sauce. In a few minutes, I'll show you how to beat that sauce in about 90 seconds. But the next brand is where the front of the bag makes you a promise it has no intention of keeping. Number 2, Good and Gather large raw shrimp. This is the bag I've been building toward all video. 41 to 50 count, 16 ounces, $8.49 at Target. Look at the side panel because Target prints something there in big green letters. No unwanted ingredients, no artificial flavors, no artificial sweeteners, no synthetic colors, no high fructose corn syrup. Now turn the bag over. Shrimp, salt, sodium tripolyphosphate. So the front tells you what they left out, and every single item on that list is something nobody was putting into shrimp in the first place. Nobody was lying awake worrying about synthetic colors in their shrimp. Nobody was checking bags of shrimp for high fructose corn syrup. The one additive that actually is in there, the one that genuinely changes what you're buying, isn't on the promise list at all. That's the label game in its purest form. Tell the shopper what you didn't do so they never think to ask what you did. And here's how you prove it in 3 seconds, standing right there in the aisle. Remember the wild-caught bag from earlier? The one at 150 milligrams of sodium per 4-ounce serving? This bag, same brand, same store, same freezer case, comes in at 530. 3.5 times the sodium. Same species, same logo, same green promise printed down the side. The FDA does step in occasionally. In March of 2023, the agency sent a warning letter to a shrimp processor in Biloxi, Mississippi, partly because the label declared the additive as tripoly, which isn't a real ingredient name, and failed to say what the preservative was doing in there. They also test for the other trick. In a sampling assignment that ran from 2022 through 2024, the FDA weighed 28 imported frozen seafood samples, 25 of them shrimp, and found 36% of them short-weighted by anywhere from 2 to nearly 10%. All 10 violative samples were refused entry. In Europe, there's a hard legal ceiling on the soak itself. Regulation number 1333 from 2008 caps added phosphates in frozen shellfish at 5 grams per kilogram. There's an actual number, and somebody has to measure it. Just not here. Weekly for a year, that's $441 on a bag whose front panel is technically true and completely beside the point. And the final skip brand is the one I'd be genuinely uncomfortable finding in my own freezer. Number 1, Great Value Raw Large Shrimp. The bag we opened with. The 2-pound value bag, 31 to 40 count, $15.96 at Walmart. That's $7.98 a pound. Teal bag, sustainably sourced badge, cooks in minutes, stamped on the front. This is very likely the single most purchased bag of shrimp in America, which is exactly why I saved it for last. Look at the ingredient list. Shrimp, water, salt, sodium tripolyphosphate to retain moisture. Water in second position on the best-selling shrimp bag in the country. If the soak adds 7 to 10% water, you're handing over somewhere between $1.12 and $1.60 per bag for water. Weekly, that's roughly $58 to $83 a year, just on water. But that isn't the worst of it. In August of 2025, the FDA advised Walmart to recall 3 lots of this exact product after Customs and Border Protection detected cesium-137, a radioactive isotope, in shipping containers tied to an Indonesian processor called BMS Foods. The isotope turned up at 4 separate American ports: Los Angeles, Houston, Savannah, Miami. The recalled lots carried a Best Buy date of March 15, 2027, and they went out to stores across 13 states. Now remember that Aquastar bag from earlier, the one stamped Product of Indonesia? That's the point. You're not really buying a brand here. You're buying whatever processor that brand contracted with this season, and you have no way to know which one from the front of the package. And this wasn't the first supply chain problem attached to this bag. In March of 2024, reporting from the Outlaw Ocean Project and the Corporate Accountability Lab documented an Indian exporter shipping shrimp raised with antibiotics under an antibiotic-free label. Trade records showed that same exporter supplying Walmart under the Great Value and Sam's Choice names. Weekly for a year, that's $830. And what makes this particularly hard to sit with is that the front of the bag never changed through any of it. Same teal color, same sustainably sourced badge, same cheerful cooks in minutes stamp. Now let me show you that test I promised, because everything I've told you tonight is something you can prove in your own kitchen before bed. Take 6 or 8 shrimp out of whatever bag is in your freezer and thaw them. Pat them dry, properly dry, with a paper towel. Then get a pan hot, dry pan, no oil at all, and lay them in. Real shrimp sears, you'll hear it happen. It hisses on contact, the edges pick up color, and the pan stays basically dry. 60 seconds aside, and you've got caramelized brown spots on the bottom of each one. Soaked shrimp does something completely different. Within about 20 seconds, a pool of cloudy white liquid floods out into the pan. The shrimp stops searing and starts boiling in its own leak. It goes pale. It shrinks in a way you can actually watch happen. And when it finally takes on any color, it's only because the water finally cooked off. That puddle is what you paid for by the pound. That's the whole story of this video, sitting in the bottom of your skillet. And this connects both halves of tonight. Every brand on the skip list will make that puddle, because every one of them has water or a phosphate in the ingredient list. The 3 brands I'm about to show you won't, because there's nothing in them to leak. If your shrimp shrinks by 1/3 and floods the pan, you didn't buy shrimp. You bought a delivery system for water. Now, if you've made it this far, here's the payoff. 3 frozen shrimp brands that are actually what they say they are, and one costs about the same per pound as that Great Value bag already in your freezer. But the surprise isn't that they taste better, it's that all 3 print the same 2 words on the front. And once you know them, you can spot real shrimp in 4 seconds. Number 3, Members Mark Wild Caught Argentine Red Shrimp. Start at Sam's Club. Members Mark launched in 1998 as Sam's Club's own label, built on the warehouse model Sam Walton started back in 1983. That model was simple: sell fewer items in bigger bags and make the money on how fast the inventory moves instead of on markup. And that's exactly why this bag can afford to be honest. When you're shipping 2-pound bags by the pallet, you don't need to pad the weight with water because your margin comes from turnover, not from stretching the product. A soak would buy them maybe 7% more weight. It would also cost them the one thing warehouse shoppers actually judge them on, which is whether the food was worth the trip out there. Here's the proof, and it's on the back of the bag where anybody can check it. Ingredients: shrimp, sodium metabisulfite, to promote color retention. That's the entire list. No water, no phosphate, 19 grams of protein per serving, which is what shrimp is supposed to do for you. One note of honesty here: that sulfite is in there to keep the shells from darkening, and if you're sulfite sensitive, that's worth knowing before it goes in the cart. The reviews land on the same thing over and over, that these actually taste sweet and that they don't collapse into mush in the pan. People aren't calling them fancy, they're calling them shrimp. 2 pounds runs $21.92, which works out to $10.96 a pound. It's the black bag in the frozen case with a red band across the top. Look for Wild Caught in white letters with Argentine red shrimp underneath. And if this ranking is useful, hit the like button. It really helps the channel cut through the algorithm. Number 2, Trader Joe's Wild Raw Argentinian Red Shrimp. Trader Joe's opened in 1967 in Pasadena, and Joe Colomb built the entire company on one rule: if they couldn't put their own name on something honestly, they wouldn't stock it. Nearly everything in that store is private label, which means when a product is bad, there's no outside brand to point at. The name on the bag is the same name that's on the door. That structure costs them money on shrimp specifically. Wild Patagonian Reds can't be farmed to order, so supply swings with the season and the price swings right along with it. A soak would smooth all of that out and let them hold a steadier shelf price all year. They just don't do it, and they eat the volatility instead. The proof takes 2 lines. Ingredients: raw shrimp, salt. 14 grams of protein per serving, 320 milligrams of sodium, and 0 grams of carbohydrate. Put that 0 next to the 21 grams of carbohydrate in the Gorton's box, and you can see the whole difference between a food and a product. Shoppers describe these the same way constantly: big, meaty, closer to lobster than to shrimp. That's just what a Patagonian red does when nobody waterlogs it first. 1 pound is $11.99. It's in the frozen case near the meat, in the plain bag with the red shrimp photo, and it's boring looking in the best possible way. And here's the kicker. That $10 cocktail tray from earlier? Take a cup of ketchup, 3 tablespoons of prepared horseradish, a squeeze of lemon, and a dash of Worcestershire. Stir it together and you've beaten the tray in 90 seconds for about $1. We'll put the method in the description. Number 1. Kirkland Signature Wild Argentine Red Shrimp. The best bag in this entire video, and it's at Costco. Costco launched Kirkland Signature in 1995 for one specific reason. Founders Jim Sinegal and Jeff Brotman were tired of paying national brands a premium for products their members could get made better and cheaper direct. Every Kirkland item on that shelf exists because somebody decided a name brand version wasn't good enough to justify its price. Doing shrimp this way costs them real money. They're buying wild-caught product out of the South Atlantic off the southern coast of Argentina, which is a longer, colder, more expensive supply line than a shrimp pond in Southeast Asia. On top of that, they're skipping the soak that would let them sell you water at shrimp prices. 2 decisions, both expensive, both made deliberately. Now here's the proof, and this is my favorite label in the entire video. Ingredients: Argentine red shrimp, 1 ingredient. On the product page, Costco says it outright. No chemicals added, no preservatives, 18 grams of protein and 200 milligrams of sodium per 4-ounce serving, which is the cleanest set of numbers you'll find anywhere in a freezer case. Members say the same thing every single time, that they're sweet, that they taste closer to lobster, and that they don't shrink. They don't shrink because there's no water in them to lose. Now run the math against the bag we started this video with. Kirkland is about $10.75 a pound. That great value bag was $7.98, so the honest one costs you under $3 more a pound, and you're not paying for water in it. Once you take the soak out of the equation, the gap between the two basically closes. The 2-pound bag has been running around $21.49 at the warehouse in the 10 to 30 count size. Look for the bright red shrimp through the window in the bag. Raw Argentine reds are already pink before you cook them, which is the exact opposite of every gray bag we looked at tonight. Here's the one thing worth remembering. Untreated shrimp carries about 119 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams, and phosphate-soaked shrimp carries 566. So the sodium line on the back of the bag tells you exactly how much water you're paying for. The worst of tonight is the great value raw shrimp, a 2-pound bag that lists water second and had 3 lots pulled from shelves in 13 states last August. The best is the Kirkland Signature Argentine Red at Costco, which lists exactly one thing, and that thing is shrimp. So here's your move on the next grocery run. Pick up the bag, turn it over, and read the second ingredient. If it says water, put it back. Next week, we found something in a nationally sold rotisserie chicken that genuinely surprised us, and it has nothing to do with the chicken. Drop the brand you still trust in the comments. We're building the list together. Hit subscribe if this changed how you shop today. We'll see you in the next